You got $10 left to your name, a pregnant wife, a house with no heat, and doors slammed in your face. What do? You stick your foot in the door and tell them that you're starving for work. That's the story of today's guest, Josh Wolfe, a guy who dropped out of the traditional school system because of his ADD, chose experience over a paycheck, and built a massive career in aerospace TIG welding and heavy fabrication. On today's episode, Josh opens up about the brutal lessons he's learned in entrepreneurship, passing the trade down to his own kids, and where blue-collar businesses are headed with AI. Without any further ado, let's get into the episode. Well, Josh, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, man, I'm better than I deserve. Kevin, how are you?
I'm great, man. I'm great.
Good.
Apparently, the social media algorithm said that we should be friends because you came up on my radar a little while ago because you also have a podcast about skilled trades, and you were looking for guests, and I was like, man, we should be friends.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense, right?
So tell me a little bit about your podcast and what is that about?
Yeah, so my podcast is Speaking of Skilled Trades. Right now it's only on Spotify because I can't figure out how to put it anywhere else.
Oh, man.
Tried the Apple stuff and all this. I just need to spend more time doing it. But so the idea behind Speaking of Skilled Trades is to raise awareness to younger people or people who maybe haven't given skilled trades a thought as a career field. My idea behind it is to raise awareness to these different fields. And me being a welder, with 25 plus years in the industry, it was kind of easy for me to go down that road, right? To go into the welding field. It's a super crowded field. And I just don't want to advocate for welding because welding might not be for everybody, obviously. I want to advocate for all skilled trades because we'll get into my story here in a little bit, but as a student in public education, I felt outsided by public education because I didn't learn the same as everybody else. I was riddled with ADD. I didn't learn from sitting in a plastic chair for 45 minutes. I couldn't listen to a teacher talk for 45 minutes, no matter how good her illustrations were on the chalkboard. I just couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I got into a lot of trouble. That led to my principal in high school basically coming up to me and saying, "Hey, you're not being successful here." And I went to it was an affluent school, but I lived on the outside of that, man. I was that farm kid that, grew up on the outskirts that never really went into town or anything else. I was busy riding my dirt bike, shooting guns, building things, doing the stuff that a kid does living out in the country. I really didn't fit into that model. Not only did I not fit into the everybody goes to college model, which I was not going. There was no way in the world. I barely made it through high school, wasn't going to college. And I didn't fit into that model. And I also didn't fit into the social model that everybody had, the in town, going to meeting at the park, playing basketball, stuff like that. I didn't have that. I bought my first car from baling hay over the summer. Completely different lifestyle. So when that principal said, "I want you to go look at, the local vocational schools, Warren County, Ohio, Warren County Career Center." He said, "I want you to go look there and see if you can find something to give you a ticket out of high school." And that's the way I took it. I mean, it was a way out for me. It was an escape. I didn't take it as like an academic pursuit. I'm going to go there and find something to be the best at it. There wasn't any of that in my head at the time. It was just, let's get out of school so I can tackle the world. I've been told that I won't be successful without college. Let's give it a shot. So when I went into that welding and metal fabrication program, and of course, I don't know how career tech is in Pennsylvania. I'm assuming it's the same. Kids have an option to migrate to a local vocational school, their 10th or their 11th and 12th grade. And so I spent the last 2 years in the welding program. My dad was a tool and die maker. I grew up with probably one of the most brilliant men as a father, and I didn't think like him. Dude, this guy, no joke, Kevin, before he would rearrange the furniture in the living room, he would scale the living room onto graph paper. And then, dude, scale every single piece of furniture from the couch to the recliner, TV, everything. Scale it down, cut it out, and rearrange it all on paper before you ever move the first piece of furniture. That's the mind of a tool and die maker, you know. And that wasn't for me. So I found welding, man. And the first time I struck the arc, it was like, wow. I don't know. I don't know how about, you know, if you really remember that. Do you remember that moment? That first time you struck an arc?
Yeah, I do. Actually, it was in tech school in ninth grade.
Yeah.
I do. It was 10th grade. 10th grade. I remember that. Yeah.
And I don't know how you felt, but man, I felt like I had the power of the world in my hands.
Yeah.
I watched that molten metal, you know, take not so good shape. This is my first try. You know, there was no shape to it, but I saw bonding between these two pieces. I saw a swirling puddle, and I'm like, this is the chaos that I need to thrive in every single day. Again, riddled with ADD, I find peace in chaos. As many chipping hammers are chipping, as many loud things are happening, as many, you know, on construction sites, cranes swinging, things beeping. That's me, man. I find peace there. So, and that's what I found in welding. And, you know, it was one of those things to where it became something completely different than school for me. When my hood dropped, the rest of the world just faded away, and I could focus on what I was doing, what I was learning. And that was education to me. That is the way education should be for somebody like me.
Yeah.
And I found my home there. And I also found a really good mentor in my welding instructor. He was awesome, dude. He was a retired iron worker, built one of the highest bridges in the state of Ohio. He was a foreman on that. He was a tough, rugged dude, you know, 6'5", 300 plus pounds, about the same size as me. Just had a lot of grit, and I was intrigued by that because let's face it, you don't see a lot of that in public education. You know what I mean? You don't see a lot of those type of people.
Yeah.
And so I was intrigued by that. And he was a really good mentor, taught me a lot. Didn't really teach me much TIG welding. He was really good with everything else. And our senior welding instructor wasn't a very good TIG welder either. And so fast forward to I graduate, finally get out of high school. Everybody, you know, in my family was doubting it. I wasn't a bad student. I was a sharp kid. I just didn't want to be there. I was checked out. But graduated, hit the ground running. And my first job was a really, really high volume production job welding. Basically, O2 sensor ports onto exhaust systems for GE or for GM. And my gosh, it was 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, better money than anybody else was paying around.
Wow.
And, you know, I was trudging in every day with my instructor's voice in the background, like, hey, man, chase the experience. Don't chase the dollars, chase the experience, you know? And I'm like, I am not getting any experience here.
Yeah.
So I moved to a company that did welding and metal fabrication for escalators and elevators. And I went through, they were Japanese owned. And man, Japanese companies really have some good training programs. And their company was staged in tech levels. So you started off as a tech 1, you ran a saw. And then tech 5 was the welding fabrication, you know, position. So for the first, week or so, I ran a saw. I took the opportunity to memorize a conversion chart on the front of that saw, conversion fractions of decimals. And then I moved up into running different equipment in that area, and then laying things out is where you really get the bulk of your experience, right? Layout, you know that. I mean, everything you do in your shop's based on layout, right?
Yep.
And that's where you get the really good experience. And so I spent some time on the layout table, moved over to another piece of equipment. Next thing you know, I was in a weld booth, and it wasn't too hard. I'm not going to really bash anybody, but it was a CWB cert. So it wasn't tough. You know what I mean? No, I'm just kidding. It was good experience. I passed the test, got into the booth, and learned a lot. But at the time I had a young family. I had a kid on the way. I married my high school sweetheart. We had a kid on the way. And this job, although it had good experience, beyond that was really nothing. And it didn't have anything to offer. So I knew I needed to make some money. So I'd heard in industry, you hear about these people. I really wanted to TIG weld. I was intrigued by the aerospace industry. And, again, my instructor taught me how to, I had certified on open root 60-10, 70-18 fill and cap when I was, a junior in high school. This guy was just a phenomenal instructor with stick and MIG. But again, TIG was lacking. So I wanted to be a TIG welder, and I sucked at it, dude. I was terrible at it. So, through the grapevine, you hear this guy is the best TIG welder around, or, this person's really good at TIG welding. And the guy that kept coming up over and over again ended up having a shop that was only, 2 miles away from my mom and dad where I grew up. Excuse me. So I wanted a job. I wanted to work around this guy. That was the only way. I was going back to school. That wasn't an option 25, 30 years ago. There wasn't a way. So went into his shop and I was like, hey, I want a job. He's like, nope. I'm a 2-car garage, 1-man band. I don't need anybody else. He's looking at this 18, 19-year-old kid. And I'm like, look, man, I will help you sell work. I will help you, I'll help you facilitate 1 or 2 employees. We'll get the work volume built up for that. But, in return, I want your undivided attention when it comes to TIG welding. And I'll give you a year of my time. That's my goal. I want to be on at GE in a year. And he, reluctantly said, okay, I'll hire you. But he hired me at $3 less on the hour than what I was making at my previous company.
Yeah.
And that stung, man, because that time, we were living in a small apartment. I'm the sole provider of my family. My wife has never worked. And selling that to your wife, man, when you go home, you're like, hey, honey, I got a new job. And she's like, that's great. How much does it pay? How much does it pay? And you're like, well, there's a story behind that.
I can do a lot of overtime, babe.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So at that, she's an awesome lady, and basically, said, I'll live under a park bench if I have to with you. Just do what you got to do and prepare yourself for our future. So I took that pay cut, man, and it was the best decision I ever made. We started selling work. By the time I left in a year, I had, being at the mercy of the door in a small shop like that, I don't know that there's better learning experience. When you're at the mercy of whatever, comes through the double doors, and you're fixing whatever it is, anything from an old lady that wants a mattress spring welded back together, and you have to break her heart and say, man, this is just not going to work. To larger fabrications, customized ladder racks and stuff like that. As an 18-year-old kid, drawing this stuff up on a napkin and then putting in production and getting that stuff fabbed up, and said, I couldn't have asked for a better training ground.
Yeah.
And the dude was a top-notch TIG welder. Was perfect combination. And so in a year's time, we had built a really good relationship. His company, again, we had taken it from a 1-man band to there was now 4 people working there. And he was spending a lot of time at the sand dunes in Michigan on his rail. And I was basically overseeing the shop. But that year mark came, and GE was hiring Alano Corporation in Dayton, Ohio. And that test was one that 5% of the welders that test for that place pass. So I knew I had to be on my game. And I was ready, and I was dreading that conversation, man, that one of, it's coming, right? And I was expecting the hammer to fall, like, dude, we got our business built up here now, and now you're leaving me. I never wanted this in the first. All these things are going through my head, and I was expecting every bit of it. And to my surprise, he had a brand new Jackson, or maybe it was a Huntsman. I don't know. Those 2 brands were huge in auto darkening back then. And I think it was a Jackson, and had bought me this new hood. And it was like a $400 hood back then. And he had it, and knowing that I was leaving sometime soon, and that was my parting gift. And I'll never forget that, man. That was just an awesome moment for me that, when you felt like you were letting somebody down, that person had been cheering you on the whole time and was ready for you to make that move.
That's awesome.
And and so I walked into GE, and I remember walking in, and they had a sign above the door when you walked in, and it said something to the effect of, and I can't remember it verbatim, but it said something to effect like, through these doors walk the most talented craftsmen and women in the aerospace industry, or something to that effect. And I remember walking through those doors and seeing that sign and thinking, man, I'm still a young kid. And this is something that I know people that have tried this and they've failed. And By the grace of God, I had the skills to be able to pass their preliminary test. It took me a week of my own time to go in from like 4 to 6 and work with their guys. And then, once I passed that test, I quickly, man, I hit the ground running. I was like the youngest out of 160 some welders there.
Wow.
And that world was mine. I was like, they're starting to implement some target run times and stuff. And I'm a young dude. I'm like, get that stopwatch behind me and time me. I'll set the target run times for these projects. It's not going to be, I'm not going to be popular.
No.
These people are going to want to kick
You ain't
my
win
ass.
no friends with that.
That's exactly right. But that's how I made money. And that was all I cared about at the time. I wasn't there to make friends. I had a family to provide for, and I was the only one doing it. And I had to make money. So with each time I moved to a different cell or a different department to start burning up some run times there, along came another dollar, and, within 2 years, I was making as much as guys that have been there 15, 20 years
Nice.
because I was working my butt off. And so after running most every piece of OEM, air manifold system, fuel systems, tube manifold systems, anything that you can think of a aircraft engine, basically the outer casing that keeps it cool or feeds it fuel, I had my hands in. I had cobalt, titanium, Inconel, stainless, Hastelloy, aluminum. I was certified to TIG weld gold as a pure gold as a replacement for braze voids from vacuum furnaces. That was the only approved fix back then. Now I've heard they've got another alloy where you can run them through the vac furnace twice. But back then the approved method of repair was gold. So you had to go to your tool crib and they would go to the safe and unlock it. And then they would bring out this TIG wire of gold and they would measure it and they would hand it off to you. And you had to get it measured when you brought it back to make sure that, you 6 inches of
a little off there.
Yeah, man. So 6 inches of weld didn't end up on a little bitty, 1/4 inch spot.
Yeah.
And snip a little bit off and put in your pocket. But that was a cool experience, man. I got to weld some really exotic materials in some really exotic settings on turntables where things were just spinning past your head and you have to duck them while you're still spinning. I mean, I got so much experience there, man. And sizing tubing, sizing the tubing up, getting it to match. There was no mismatch and blending it where you can't see that there was a weld there before. All this setting up for my future, I had no idea. I really wanted to be a supervisor. And again, education was holding me back. Their policy was a 2-year associate's degree in something. It could be in mechanical engineering, industrial engineering, whatever. But you need an associate's degree in something to be a supervisor. That didn't make any sense to me. And the other way to do that was to have 7 years on the job experience.
Okay.
And I was like 2 in, and I wasn't willing to wait.
Yeah.
And I was ambitious. Again, I was young. I had a family to feed. So I made the decision that anybody would do. And I started my own business in miscellaneous steel.
Screw this crap.
go from literally, 4/1000ths of an inch flat flanges to I saw the bubble go by, nail it, let's roll. That is just a culture shock, for anybody.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you how I got into that. But anything else you want to ask up to this point? I literally could talk this story forever. So if you want to interject anywhere, just feel free.
Hey guys, the Fabricator Olympics is only a couple weeks away. I know you've been putting off getting your tickets. You'll get it next week. You'll get on over to the website. But you know what? This is your final warning. Head on over to fabricatorolympics.com and book your spot now. Because once the competitor spots are full, they are full. This isn't just another welding event. You're going to be surrounded by welders and fabricators from all over the country, putting their skills to the test, competing head-to-head in real-world inspired challenges based on time and accuracy. But you don't have to compete to come out. Come hang out, meet other people in the industry, watch the metal art competition, check out the welding rig chuck show, and be there for the unveiling of the 9/11 memorial statue. Bring your crew, bring your family. Come spend the day around people who actually understand what you do for a living. If you're an owner of a welding and fabrication business and you're serious about taking it to the next step, come a day early. The Welding Business Summit is Friday, September 11th, the day before the Fabricator Olympics. It's a full day built specifically for small welding business owners who want to better their team, understand their numbers, sell more work, and run a more profitable business. So Friday, September 11th, the Welding Business Summit. Saturday, September 12th, the Fabricator Olympics. We're getting close, so don't let all the competitor spots fill up and wish you would have signed up. Go to fabricatorolympics.com and get your tickets now for Saturday. And if you're ready to take your fabrication business to the next level, head on over to weldingbusinesssummit.com and get your tickets for that as well. We'll see you in September. No, it's funny. So I relate with you on, like, verbatim, you said chase the experience, not the money.
Yeah.
I've been saying that for years, like years and years. And because that's unknowingly, that's what I did.
Mm-hmm.
And now my son just turned 18 and I did not push him to go to the welding field. He was up between welding and baking for tech school. And luckily I'm like, look, man, the people who make really good money in baking and culinary is very small compared to the welding field. I'm like, I'm going to leave it at that. I said, do what makes you happy. He chose welding, luckily. And he went through tech school. And, you know, when he was up for co-op, I helped him get a job with my buddy who is, they're a small fab shop, but they also do construction too. And so some days he's welding on, you know, big steel baskets to put hydraulic fittings in. Some days he's like grinding stuff off the plasma table, and other days he's wiring up electrical outlets and taking down drop ceiling and stuff like that.
And you can't ask for better experience than that.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
I see it as, you know, he should. I'm happy that he's learning stuff, and they're ball busters. They're like old school ball busters.
Yeah,
but they're not jerks. You know what I mean? Like they're not actually gonna piss in your welding helmet, but they'll threaten it. You know what I mean?
Right. They'll tell you they're gonna do it. They'll have you checking that hood every time you go to put it on, huh?
Exactly. And so his boss is actually a little bit younger than me, but his dad is also involved, and his dad scares the crap out of my son. And I'm like, that's a healthy level of respect that you need for somebody who you're working under.
Absolutely.
So, but you know, he's not making much now. He just graduated this year. He's making he's under $20 an hour. But I'm like, look, man, don't chase the money yet. Chase the experience. He's like, now he's working like 70 hours a week. Like I get texts from his boss and he's like, hey man, I'm trying to throw everything I got at this kid that's broken most adults who have come to work here. He's like, this kid just won't break. I'm like, yeah, that's my kid. All right. You know,
and that is better than a phone call saying, hey, your kid's a good welder.
Yeah.
That's better any day.
Yeah.
That right
and you know what? I want him to stay there for as long as he can, because the amount of concentrated of experience that he'll learn at a place there is going to be so diverse versus just, you know, going from one place, like going to make door frames over at this company or going to weld, you know, like stainless steel hydraulic fittings over here or something like that. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like I want him to get his butt kicked every day, come home filthy and dirty after 12, 14 hours.
Yep.
And, you know, I want him to learn. So I relate with you on that chase the experience. And
and look at how many things. Yeah, exactly. And there comes a point in time when bills are paramount. I mean, that supersedes everything. And hopefully by then you've gotten enough well-rounded experience from across the board to guide you in a certain direction that you like.
Yeah.
You know, that you want to be in, that you're comfortable in, that you can see yourself excelling in. I never took that option. I mean, I just kind of flailed around, man, until and I'll tell you how I got into miscellaneous steel. So I quit my job with no plan of, you know, I didn't have a big nest egg. In fact, I didn't have any money at all, hardly. I just bought a house on 14 acres. It was the first time I was able to afford anything. I mean, as soon as I got hired on a GE, dude, my salary doubled. And, so I'm telling the wife, I'm like, find a house. And so she did. And she's like, well, how's Lynchburg, Ohio? And I'm like, where the hell is Lynchburg, Ohio? That was perfect. We found a house in 14 acres that was extremely affordable for my family. They were able to do the same things I was doing as a kid. They're building things, riding dirt bikes, shooting guns out the back door, peeing off the front porch. I mean,
Love it.
those are the things that matter at this age, right?
Yep.
And I was given that for, I was providing that for my kids until I wasn't. And that's when business got dark. Was at the beginning of business. Again, I didn't have a plan. I didn't have a business plan. I didn't have money. I had impeccable work ethic is what I felt I had. I had superior work ethic to most people, right? And I think that's the case for a lot of us tradesmen. We excel in work ethic because that's who we are. But sometimes we rely on it a little bit too much to be successful. There's a whole lot more that goes to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been beating the door down of this fabricator and getting the word no every single time I'm beating the door down. Money is extremely tight to the point where my wife was pregnant with my third kid, my daughter. It was the middle of winter. She was about 7 months pregnant. I couldn't afford to put propane in the propane tank to keep my family warm. We were gathering around a small heater in the living room, and kind of blocked that living room off to keep the heat in. And that's where we were staying until I could afford to get enough money to put it in the propane tank. I was 2 months behind on my house payment. That had never happened before. They were calling to repossess my, foreclose on my home. And so I literally took the last $10 to our name and put it in the gas tank of a Ford Focus that we had, because I couldn't afford $10 when it got me to the fabricator and back in my truck. So I put it in this little Ford Focus and I take it to the fabricator, and it was the same thing. I knock on the door. I'm a 3-knock guy. I'm a knock, knock, knock. I don't know if you've ever paid attention to how many times you knock on somebody's door.
Yep.
I got one and a half out in this. Yeah, exactly. So I got 1.5 knocks out on this dude, and he had already had the door open. He saw me coming through when I got out of the car. He was waiting on me, and he had opened the door, and he said, Josh, again, I don't have any work. And as soon as I knew he was going to say it, I could tell by the way he said my name what he was going to say. And I had started inching my foot forward to where it was going to be in the way of that door. So when he started to pull that door back to shut it, this guy, you would have to know him. He's extremely cut and dry. There's no middle ground. There's very rarely a smile. It is exactly what I say, and there's no variance in that. That's exactly what I mean. So he was simple. I don't have any work, turned around to shut the door. The conversation was over until the door hit my foot. And he turned back around, and I remember him looking down at my foot, and he's the same height as me, much better shape than I am, even though he's 10 years older than me. Makes me mad. But I remember him looking down at my foot, man, and then him looking up at my eyes. And he said, "You're hungry, aren't you?" And I said, "Dude, I am starving." And at the time, I was doing side work just for groceries, just for groceries for my kids, not even money. I just needed food for my kids. And I said, "I'm starving, dude." And he goes, "You're right where I need you to be." He said, "Don't ever forget the feeling that you have in your stomach right now and that hunger that you have, because it will drive you forever. And when it stops, so will your business." And I remember that to this day, man, and how profound that was, because he knew I had nowhere else to go. He knew my only option was to come out swinging. He knew that was it. And that's where I was. And he knew, in his opinion, that I was right where I needed to be successful. So he looks at me and he goes, "Go get your workers' compensation and your limited liability insurance, and we'll put you to work in the field." That was a whole nother chore, man. I had to come up with another $3,000 real quick, And so when I did, somehow I came up with it over time and got to work. And I started off in the Miss Metals installation business, just kind of cleaning up other erectors' stuff. If, let's say, an intermediate landing didn't line up well and the railings weren't lined up well, some of the guys that were setting those stairs before me, they were throwing in levels of stairs, and if they didn't line up, they're out. I mean, they got another 10-story building to put stairs in right after that. And
Yeah.
you know as well as I do, stair installers are not a dime a dozen. So it's not like they're on every corner and you can just pick up the phone and find somebody that can install 7 flights of stairs.
Yep.
It's just not readily available. So all the stuff that was left over was my job. I had to clean all that stuff up. I had to make those intermediate rails look good and line up and stay within code. And I had to make modifications to the nose of the stringer to get that thing to fall into place so they can come back and finish panning we stick build everything. I don't know if you guys unitize your stairs or not, but stringer, pan that thing up and go. That's the way we installed stairs. And I cut my teeth fixing other people's mistakes, whether it be the erector or the fabricator. And so from an early start in that business, man, I got to figure out how to avoid things that would make that job go wrong. I would end up looking at it and say, okay, how did this not line up? The shaft is square.
Yeah.
Why isn't this intermediate landing not lining up? And, being able to have the opportunity that was my job to fix that. And the whole time I'm fixing it, I'm processing it. Why did this happen?
Yeah.
So the next gradual step is you start installing those stairs yourself. Well, hey, I'm going out there and I'm pulling a tape on all these points before you ever send the first piece of steel out. So I can look at that job, superintendent, and say, hey, you need to fix this, this, and this, and then I'll be out before I set my stair. I was getting all that stuff, that education really early, and it really paid off. So the next step was installing stairs. And, I went from a one-man band of going around and fixing people's stuff to hired a hand to help me. I don't know about you, but early in business, I went through a lot of hands. A lot, some that couldn't help me carry a 20-foot rail 10 feet. But they were there, and that's what I needed at the time. Then when I started setting stairs, man, I got some good guys. I got some guys that had been in the industry a little bit, and I also took a buddy of mine who we had kind of parted ways, but I knew his work ethic was impeccable. But he was driving a 1-800 got junk truck at the time. And I remember calling him up and I'm saying, hey, man, you really want some skills? You really want me to teach you something that'll pay you for the rest of your life? Drop whatever you got. You can hate me. I hate you. Whatever. Let's just make money together. And he ended up coming to work for me. The first job we were on, I remember looking at him and saying, hey, I need a 2-foot level. And he ran to the truck and back. And I'm like, that's the dude. That's the guy I need.
Yeah.
Somebody that's going to run and get that tool, because we're setting this stair. It's not something you could just put on hold. And this guy understands that. And that's what you need in a business like that.
Yeah.
And so I built a crew of people that were exactly that. And man, we were setting floors of stairs all over the Cincinnati area. And then 2011 hit. I think at the peak, Kevin, I think I had probably 8 guys on payroll at my highest point. And we would typically break up in crews of 2 or 3, 3 if we had to, but try to keep 2s. And I also had some other people that were, needed work at the time, and I had it going, and they didn't work for me full time, paid them 1099, subcontracted through me. They helped me out during those times, but it got to the point in the Miss Metals, and I don't know if you were in the business at the time, but it got to the point where the big steel guys were taking the entire packages. They were taking it all, and they were buying them, sometimes at a loss, just to keep their guys busy. And I couldn't compete with that. I was a small company, and I was in the business of making money. And, so there came a point in time where I stopped my business. I quit quoting work. I liquidated field assets that I knew I could get rid of now, and still held on to core assets that I knew I could get back in the game later. And I had to go get a job for the first time in 15 years or something like that. I mean, it was crazy. The last time I was looking for a job, I looked for it and was circling jobs in the classified ads. Right. And now I'm looking for a job on Indeed, dude. Whole different world. Yeah. So, and it had been like, again, over a decade since I had a resume,
Yeah.
So I had to sit down and create a resume. I took, and while I was bouncing around on Indeed, I saw that a local aerospace company was hiring for a TIG welding position. So I printed off this resume. And again, at this point, man, there's a lot of emotions going on. I didn't really know what I was going to do. I just know I needed money right now.
Yep.
And that's my plan was, I took that resume up to the place and found a guy walking out of the building in a suit at 4:00 in the afternoon. I was late getting there. And I didn't have an appointment. I was just going to take it there to get the work. And I started off by shaking this guy's hand, said, "Hey, my name's Josh Wolfe. I've been a small business owner for 10 years. Um, I need work. I saw you guys are hiring welders. I'll go under the hood for you, tomorrow. I'll pass your weld tests that day if you want me to, and I'll be productive for you the following day." That's the kind of person I am. I've been in that industry before and I can do it again.
Mm-hmm.
I just need money. And the guy's like, I'm not the guy you need to talk to, but I know him. I said, "Okay, great. Hand it off to him, please." So after that, I put in some more applications, and I didn't hear anything from them for like a week and a half. And then 2 weeks later, they called me back and they're like, "Hey, come in and talk to us." So I did. And I got my hood in the hand and everything else. And, I'm dressed like a welder is dressed going in for a weld test. And I walk in and there's suits around the table. And I'm like, which didn't scare me. I mean, I did business with suits all the time in the steel construction industry. But it wasn't what I was expecting. I was expecting a weld supervisor, somebody who looked like me to put me in a booth and give me a weld test. And they said, "Hey, we would love to have you under the hood, but we saw your resume and we think that you would better serve us as the off-shift plant manager." And I'm like, wow, that wasn't what I was expecting. How many people are that? How many people I'd be overseeing? Right. And it was over 100, I think. And so I took that job and it was a great salary, awesome people, dude. Phenomenal hometown people. This place is in the middle of cornfields. Nice. And it's part of a company, Standard Aero is a national aerospace company. It's like a $2.6 billion company right now. I mean, it's huge. And it was in my backyard. And, I started there, built relationships with these people, ended up finding out some of the people working for me I had worked with at GE years prior. And man, it was a really cool thing that we created a really good working environment. We increased production in just a short period of time, decreased rejects. We were doing really well. And I had filled out an application for a weld school, or a vocational school. And this place was called Great Oaks. And I filled out an application for the welding instructor's position at Laurel Oaks in Wilmington, Ohio. And I'd forgotten all about it. And so I'm living my life as as an off-shift manager. And I get this phone call and it's like, "Hey, this is so-and-so with Laurel Oaks. I'd like for you to come in and talk to us about this position." This was late in the summer, man. I mean, this is like July 20th or something.
Wow.
School year starts in a couple weeks,
in a month.
So we're talking and we're negotiating over dollars, which if people are hesitant about becoming an instructor in career tech, I would just encourage you to check out, the district, because I just wouldn't leave a position to lose money.
Yeah.
And career tech matched me where I needed to be. I make great money now. I work 185 days a year, It's a great gig, man. It's the greatest gig on the planet. So anyway, remove that barrier if you're thinking about being a career tech teacher, because we need them. We need a ton of career tech teachers right now. Long story short, I accepted that job. The cool thing was the day I got the keys to my lab, my welding instructor was there to open my lab with me and to walk through the equipment with me. He told me I was always going to be an instructor, and I laughed at him because I hated school. But the reality was there, and I was finally an instructor. And so I started teaching. Went to Ohio State because it was part of the licensure program to become a career tech teacher for 3 years. I hated every second of that.
Yep.
I bet. Man, it was terrible, dude. And I was at the point, Kevin, where, I had taken that job because, man, I had spent so much time away from my kids in the past. It got to the point in business where I just wasn't doing work in Cincy. I was doing work all over the place.
Yeah.
And I was spending a lot of time away from them. So I took that teaching job to spend more time with them. And here I'm having to miss my son's high school baseball games and everything because of stupid classes at Ohio State to teach kids how to do something I've been doing my whole life. And not only that, for an educator to teach me how to do it. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
Anyway. So,
How old are your kids now?
So my oldest is 25.
Okay.
He just turned 25. My middle boy is 21. And then my daughter is 19. And all three of them are aerospace TIG welders.
Wow.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, it's really cool.
That's real cool.
And they work for the company that I worked for 14 years ago.
Okay.
Which is awesome. And they make great money. You know, my oldest boy, he's out with married and kid and lives on a house with 6 acres. Beautiful little starter home. My other 2 kids are making that move now. They've got more money in the bank than I do. They just got stockpiles, new cars,
Yeah.
they're doing great, man. It's awesome. But
That's awesome.
Yeah. So about year 2 into my teaching career.
What year was this?
So this was 2000, and I started teaching in 2013.
Okay.
So in the steel business, and were you in business back then?
No, I started in a fab shop when I was 15, but I didn't go off onto my own until 2015.
Okay. So, and this is a good lesson for people that see economic downturns, especially in our field. My work was the tail end of most work, right? Of most job sites. Sometimes I'm one of the last people on the job site installing. Yep. Especially if it's a stainless rail or something like that they want to keep protected. It's their showpiece. Maybe it's a monumental stair with some cable. They want to keep that thing nice. So I'm one of the last ones in to install this thing. So you got a bunch of people like electricians, plumbers, and everybody else that don't screw it up, right? Because they don't know what things look like when they're nice.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to. I'm just kidding. But anyway, sorry, plumbers, electricians. I didn't mean that. But
didn't fully mean that.
Right, completely. But I'm one of the last people on the site, so that work was plentiful. When everybody else was struggling in 2009, I was trucking through 2011. That's when the brakes hit because I was at the tail end of every job. So once that money, had to catch back up and that private money started flowing again, I was already hurting. And everybody else was kind of on a rebound. So it was secular. And this was 2014. It would have been my second year teaching. My phone wouldn't stop ringing to the point where, it hit lunch and I'd have to return phone calls. And it would be, hey, I got this stair, so-and-so. I need you to quote this. And I would call them back and I say, hey, I'm not doing this anymore. What are you doing? I'm teaching. What the hell are you doing that for? And I didn't really know how to respond, Kevin. I was just like, well, things sucked in business and I had to find a job, and here I am. But the phone calls became so common that I didn't have a choice. I had to get something going again. I looked at it as an opportunity. I knew some guys that had worked for me before that, again, we had a good relationship. I was what I would consider a good boss. I literally put my guys before myself, and you would know, more than I care to share. Those guys always got paid way before I did.
Oh yeah.
There was times where I wouldn't be getting paid for weeks, but they would, and I just put them before myself. I treated them the way I thought, I would want to be treated. So anyway, I made some phone calls, and one of the phone calls that I made was a guy that had worked for me a long, years and years ago, and he was teaching at the school that I went to high school in. And I'm like, man, I cannot see this dude. This guy can barely put together a coherent sentence. I can't see this guy teaching. You know what I mean? Good iron worker, good erector, but man, a teacher? Okay. So I called him up and I'm like, hey, do you like teaching? He goes, no, I hate it, dude. I hate every second of it. I was like, well, I like it. I like teaching. And honestly, man, I wanted to put the company back together. And if you want to quit teaching and come work for me, I'll give you a salary and I'll do all the quote and get everything going. We use my core equipment, add on as we go. You run field operations. I'll put you on salary. We'll build from there. And we did. We built back to where we kind of got out of the stairs and just kind of niched into railing all over the United States. I had one of the customer, actually the customer that got me into railing and into specialized railing, niche railing, was a company out of Washington, D.C. named, what was the name of that company? It's right on the tip of my tongue. They're a huge ornamental type railing company, just ornamental fab. Synergy. Okay. Synergy is the name of that company. They called me up one time and they said, hey, we have a mall going up in Cincinnati, Ohio that's got some glass railing in it. You ever done glass? And I'm like, nope, and don't want to. And they said, well, hold on. Let's talk about this because we get these packages and we got a lot of money into them. And I'm like, okay, well, let's talk. And man, I'm sitting here putting 2-line rail in Cincinnati for like $18 a linear foot. And they start throwing around, that 150, 250 linear foot number for this glass railing and stuff. And I'm thinking, damn, okay. This is the kind of work I want to get into. So mall here in Cincinnati, Liberty Center, was my first glass railing job. And it went off without a hitch. And that led to, man, we did the Nashville Cool Springs Mall, complete demo and reinstallation. I don't know how many thousands of linear feet there, but they had this old, nasty steel railing. We completely went in and chopped all that railing up, demoed everything out of it, left 2 posts. That's it, just 2 posts standing. Tapped and drilled every single post in that mall, put some ghost clamps on the front of it, seamless, just a stainless steel top cap. And, the cool thing about those projects, those mall projects, is you got to do all that stuff on third shift, man. And every bit of it has to be buttoned up by the following morning. Yeah, and now you're getting into a game where it's not like your backyard, like your dock stairs. You might have a job with some cane rail and 2 dock stairs. Man, this is a job where there's liquidated damages now. Like if you don't hit your schedule, they're hitting you in the wallet. And I'm in a whole different world, Yeah. Which was cool for me. I mean, it was all right, but it was just an adjustment. And I went from, adding more and more guys. And then I acquired a company off the East Coast called SC Railing back in the day. And they were later acquired by Trex Commercial Products, who do all the outdoor, boards and stuff like that. So when they acquired SC Railing, inherently I became an installer for Trex. And Trex Commercial Products is putting glass all over the place in every stadium from east to west coast. And we're gobbling up as much as we can. And man, it was going great. The last job that I did in the miscellaneous steel world was Seattle Mall. Downtown Mall on 4th Street in Seattle. And the thing I like about podcasts, Kevin, is they're raw. And I'm an open book.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to shoot straight. By this time, I was rolling in money that I'd never seen before. And I wasn't flaunting it. I've never been that kind of person, ever. But I have been the kind of person to enjoy it. And I enjoyed that kind of money. Mm-hmm. And I lost sight of one thing, one of the biggest things. When the leader isn't in the field anymore, man, it's tough to manage. It's tough to manage everything. When it's your name on the end of the project and you're 2,000 miles away from the project, and the only time you get to see it is on the weekends when you go make the site visits and have, job meetings. I lost sight of my guys. I lost sight of the jobs themselves, our performance on the job. And quite honestly, we were already at the point where it was like getting guys to stay on the road, that want to work on the road. Man, I was paying these guys, $75,000 a year with all company vehicles and gas cards and everything else. And that was just baseline salary, and they didn't have to pay it. And this was back in, 10 years ago, or not that long. It was probably close to 7 years ago. And so they were good wages, and it just wasn't enough, man. You can't replace being there with your family.
Yep.
no matter how much money you throw at them. And so, um, one thing led to another, and I was forced to just basically drag it up again because I had a job. I was making really good money as a welding instructor. I still, that was important to me. I had kids coming up, my own kids coming up through that I wanted to teach.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wasn't interested in trying to hang on anymore. I wasn't interested in trying to manage that from a distance anymore. I wasn't I wanted to be at that point. It was like either you're going to dominate the niche market that you're in business, or you're going to be the best welding instructor that you can be, because there's no more room for in between. You're doing decent at both, and I was doing good as an instructor. Don't get me wrong, but there was 100% of my focus on instructing. No. And I don't think any teacher 100% of their focus is on their teaching job, but 100% of my focus wasn't on it. And I felt like if I'm going to be charged with leading the next generation into the skilled trades, into their field of study, into the workforce, that they deserved 100% of what I had. And so that was probably the toughest decision I ever made, was to not try to resuscitate that after guys left because they didn't want to travel anymore, because I became the boss that I wasn't before. Before I was extremely attached to everything. I didn't micromanage anything because I knew that I trained everybody there. I knew what they were capable of, but man, that figurehead's not in the field anymore. So the quality that they knew they could get away with, that the architect or somebody else wouldn't put on a punch list, that's fine, but that's not my standards,
Yeah.
My standards are.
Do you feel like you lost your love and your passion for that? Or was it just,
1,000%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I lost my passion for the game, because I think that's one of the biggest things. I loved competing against people. That's me, man. I love competing, and I love throwing a number in there within a few $100s of another erector. That kind of stuff to me is just, that's what grinded my gears back then, man. That's what I lived for.
Yeah.
And I really wasn't into that anymore. It became more of, how much can I put on the plate? How much can we consume at a time? And where was the next job? And what kind of permits and red tape did I have to go through to do work in that state? You know what I mean? That's just basically what consumed my time. And it wasn't eating lunch with the boys anymore. It wasn't, hey, if anybody on this crew can outwork me today, I'll buy your lunch. That kind of stuff wasn't there anymore. And again, I was in situations, Kevin, where I would pull up to a job site, and, in my contract, it says that I have access to the footprint of this building. That's where I need to unload my steel, pull my steel truck up in downtown Cincinnati. And a guy comes out throwing a fit. It's like, hey, man, where are you parking? I'm unloading my steel. No, you got to park out there. We ended up getting this argument. And he's like, turn around. I'm calling your boss. So he gets a number off the back of my shirt. My phone rings, and he looks at me like, damn it. You couldn't tell me from my guys.
Yeah.
And that's what I think was what built my business and made us credible, made us reputable, and made us who we were. And when I wasn't an active part of that anymore, first of all, I didn't know how to be the other person, because I'd always gotten everywhere I was with grit and determination, dirt and duct tape, man, get it done. And now I was having to sit in these job trailers with these suits from Turner, from Whiting and Turner, Consigli, the biggest names in the construction industry that you can think of. I'm having to sit in these job meetings with them. And not only just the construction managers themselves, but the fabricators I'm working for. I mean, Trex Commercial Products, daggone, I'm flying to Minneapolis, to Minnesota to their corporate headquarters to meet with them. I'd never done anything like that before. And so I had to be somebody that I really wasn't. And so I lost sight of everything in the field. I lost the passion for what I did. I lost the passion for being with my guys. I became detached from the very people that I built my business with. You know what I mean? And who had given me everything they had, and they weren't getting that back from me. And again, this is an open book, man. This is the first time I'm publicly, coming out and saying and admitting my faults, and that's something I've had to do as a man years prior to this. I've gotten over this a long time ago. But first time ever publicly saying, my mistakes and outlining, because this is a Welding Business Owners podcast. And man, that's a big thing. Making that transition to somebody leading, going from the guy in the field to the visionary is a tough thing, especially when that's not really your niche. That's not who you are. And so, yeah, man, I lost passion for it, and it was really easy to let go. And that's I think was the worst part about it for me, is when I realized how easy that was for me to let go.
Okay.
I felt that I mean, I've been on some really high profile jobs and done some really amazing things. I mean, I installed at the people who own Hornady ammunition. I installed their private residence. You know what I mean? It's not just that, but just the buildings that I've done all over the country. And there's a great sense of pride in that. But, at that point, I was just the name on the side of the truck. I was the name on all my gang boxes, and I wasn't anything more. I didn't get to experience the cool stuff, like all the, the barbecues that the job superintendent would put on for my guys because they did such an amazing job. I didn't get to go to that anymore. And so, yeah, it was an easy thing to hang up. And that's when I knew it was time to hang up, because it was so easy. Mm-hmm. And so for the past, 6 years, I guess 6 years, I've been teaching. I've gotten the opportunity. My oldest son came through my welding program, and he graduated in 2019, which was the same year that I quit doing business, which was funny because, again, we were in Seattle. My guys were staying in Skykomish, which is northeast of Seattle. They flew home late 2019. The first case of COVID was discovered in Skykomish, Skykomish, Washington. And then not long after that, we had it here in Ohio. So I'm not saying that my guys were responsible for bringing that back over across the country, but maybe I can claim that. But yeah, so at that point we shut her down, and I just focused on my kids. My middle son did not want to go to the career center. He did not want to take the welding program. He wanted to go to college. So he stayed at his home school, and he played, sports and stuff, and hung out with his friends until he was a senior and figured out that he didn't want to go to college. And then, I could have put him to work at a lot of places. He's a very independent kid. He was a hot carry for a short period of time, and then he figured out that sucks, especially when it's 98 degrees outside, right? So he comes up to me and he's like, "Dad, I don't want to do this anymore." And I'm like, "Well, bud, you got to pay for your stuff somehow. What are you going to do?" He's like, "I don't know." I said, "Well, we need to have this conversation. We've had this conversation multiple times before. You wanted to go to college, now you don't. Well, let's talk." And so it ended up being he wanted to be, he wanted to weld. So I set him up in my barn. And up to this point, my kids, I'd never pushed my kids, my career on my kids ever. Mm-hmm. My son grew up helping me because he was a phenomenal TIG welder. He helped me install some rail locally during the summer and stuff like that. My middle boy never went close to a construction site. Neither did my daughter. And he told me he wanted to weld. So I set him up in the barn on some, 16 gauge stainless. And to my surprise, this was probably the most naturally talented kid that I've ever seen, because he just took it, man. And in 3 weeks was good enough to pass the entry-level test for an aerospace company.
Dang.
I was blown away. Kevin, I was blown away.
3 weeks?
3 weeks, dude. And it was self-taught. He was doing that while I was at work.
Wow.
I taught him some things. I would show him something, but he's got a phenomenal memory. Like it's photographic for him. It just replays in his head. And I would show him a few times and then let him practice. I would go back into the house and, just burn it up. I would buy another sheet, and I've got a CNC plasma cutter here in the shop. I don't have a shear, which sucked. So, I'd cut him up some more coupons, clean them up for him until just keep him running. Yeah. And in 3 weeks, he had taught himself well enough and was that, just natural talent, that he got a job as a TIG welder. And so then my daughter came through, and she graduated in 2025. She didn't know what she wanted to do with her life. Didn't really want to weld after that. She liked going to school with Dad more than she did welding.
Mhm.
You know, she wanted to be with me. My kids, we have a really close relationship. My wife and I are very close. We would rather do things together than hang out with friends or anything like, you know, and so
Yeah.
really tight knit family. And she came up to me, you know, it's been a few months ago, and she's like, Dad, I'm tired. She worked at a dairy bar down the road, and she ran like the ice cream place, the dairy bar at this local carryout. And she said she wants to weld. So again, I set her up in the barn, practiced some stuff, and lo and behold, you know, a few months ago, she got hired on. And these kids are knocking on $30 an hour. Well, my other two are over it, and she's knocking on it. It's this first welding job ever.
That's awesome.
And I'm looking at this. I don't know about you, man. What was your first welding job?
I worked at a fab shop when I was 15. My girlfriend at the time, her dad got me a job there as a test because the guy's name, his name was Bill. He was synonymous for not keeping employees long at all. He was the kind of guy who he'd get pissed, he'd scream and yell and throw shit.
Yeah.
And that's what he did. And I
Yeah.
just took it though. So I
Right.
stayed there for 6 years. But I tell you,
Yeah.
I learned everything, like so much stuff from that guy in that 6 years. And I mean, I
Yeah.
think I started at I was like just in high school. I was probably making 10, $12 an hour, I think
Yeah.
there.
That's
And
exactly
then,
right.
yeah, I eventually moved up to be like $25 an hour.
Right.
And after I proved myself after 6 years, you know.
Sure.
But yeah, that was my first fab shop job.
But we've never had what these kids do.
Yeah.
And they're getting top level, you know, top dollar. And I'm not saying $30 an hour is top dollar, but for a
But
kid
for
right
straight
out of high school,
it is.
wow.
Heck yeah.
I mean, I didn't have that opportunity.
Yeah.
You know, and like I tell my students on a regular basis, I don't ever want my students to be average. I push them to be the best version of themselves that they can be every day. But in reality, that's all you got to be in today's market is average.
Mhm.
If you show up, you work, and you're average at what you do, you're going to be successful. Unfortunately, that's the way it was. And it wasn't like that when I graduated high school. I was competing against grown men, you know, that had been in the game for 20 years that were wanting money, the same money I was wanting, but I'm 15 years younger than them, you know?
Yeah.
And those opportunities just to walk out and make really good money out of the gate without sweeping floors first didn't exist. And so these kids have got it, man. They've got it. So anyway, the conversation here recently has turned into, so my daughter graduated in 2025. Her boyfriend of 3 years is a phenomenal welder, a really smart kid. Everybody in my family is. My two sons are extremely talented welders, phenomenal talent. I mean, but sharp, you know, can look at prints and just fab whatever's off the top of their head from a, you know, off the top of their head or from a basic set of prints. It doesn't matter. Those kids will figure it out. And they have been twisting my arm for the longest time to start my business back up. So today on your podcast is the first time that I'm going to say that my shop door is open for light fabrication, production runs on TIG, and any other type of mobile welding that needs to be done in the South, I would say Southern Ohio area for now.
Nice.
You know, I'll take any type of jobs through the door, production runs, again, like machine work, you know, weldments, things like that to get going, get these guys feet wet. But, you know, they're wanting to get into the game. They want to do something with me. It's something that I've tried to avoid for a long time because the Miss Metals game, man, I don't know if that's really a business that I would want to do with my kids. We'll see. They want to because I've done it. But man, that's a tough game. That's a tough game, and that's a tough game to run a family business in. I mean, when I run a field crew, I don't know. It's not a whole lot of sugarcoating. You know what I mean? And it's a whole different person. I fired my son twice. And I had to hire him back because he was my only employee. That's the kind of person I am. And you know, it's one of those things where my son's an awesome kid. He takes things in stride, but I remember plain as day, there's ever since I've stopped doing business, my business still, my LLC or my S corp still exists. And I take jobs here and there over summer. I didn't do any this year. I didn't do any last year because I've been so busy with this type of stuff. But before that, my oldest son, he would travel with me and stay in hotels with me during the summer to put in, 1,000-foot of rail somewhere, just he and I. And yeah, I got heated one time because he didn't think the way I thought he should have thought. Right? He wasn't reading my mind. And and we
Isn't that every
strived.
boss's problem? This is
It
take what's
is.
in our mind and put it out to everybody else.
And then if we look at that, you're exactly right. And then if we look at it and say, well, if everybody did that, my competition would be pretty steep,
Yeah.
So I was just because, and I treated him completely different than any man who'd ever worked for me. It's like I inherently thought that he should know how to put in these dumpster gates. Like, what do you mean you don't know how to lift this thing up and put these barrel hinges on and make this thing swing level when it's done? How can you tell me you don't know how to do that? You're my son. Well, I've never taught him how to do that. You know what I mean? So,
but
yeah,
Dad, you never showed me.
That's exactly right. So it led to me firing him. And then the next day I'm calling him like, where are you at, dude? He's like, you fired me, Dad. And I'm like, yeah, but I need you now. And he's like, you fired me. I was like, okay, hired back. Let's go. So they kind of know what they're getting into, man, a little bit. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited. I'm excited to get back into the game. I want to take something different. I had a small fab shop when I first started. I rented a small space off my dad. That was another thing. My dad was going to help me. My dad was a business owner for 42 years and ran a large scale small business. He had it was close to 100 employees at one point. Just ran a big machine company. And I grew up in that shop. And part of my getting into business was saying, hey, Dad, if I get into business, and he's like, no, don't do it. You've seen what kind of stuff I've been through over the 40 years. Don't do it. Just find somewhere that you can settle down and retire from. And I'm like, man, I'm not built that way. So I had just started that business, and he was, he basically said that, okay, I don't like the idea that you're going to do this, but man, you're my son. I'm going to help you. And then it wasn't maybe 2 weeks later, after I finally got the first, the go ahead, get your workers' comp liability insurance, and we'll get at it. I get a phone call from him, and he was in the emergency room, and he was 50 years old. He had just had his 50th birthday. And he said, hey, I got something to tell you. And I said, okay. He goes, man, I got leukemia. I said, what? And he said, at that time he had just basically closed his business down. And the electric motors business, coil winding, had basically all gone to China. NAFTA had went through in 1994. Everybody started putting plants in Mexico or China. A lot of that stuff was going to Mexico. My dad was kind of guys like, if I'm not manufacturing here, I'm not manufacturing anywhere. I've made my money in this business. It can go to Mexico and stay there. So that's exactly what it did. And so we were just moving along in his shop and kind of liquidating it down as we went. And then he calls me and tells me he has leukemia when I'm starting mine. And he didn't come back out of that hospital for over a month and a half. He went into a coma. He had a frontal lobe bleed, and he came out. I would, if I had to guess, maybe 35-40% mental capacity as to what he was before. So he was in no shape to help me with my business. It was just grip and grin and get it off the ground like everybody else does. So that was a part that I forgot. That was a huge impact in me. And again, that whole struggle of getting off the ground that so many business owners go through. That was just another really key component.
Yeah.
But so we're looking forward to starting that back up. I've just started getting ready to start my 14th year as the welding instructor. We doubled that lab. I ran it. When I first started there, they looked at me and said, okay, we don't have enough kids to give you a junior program. You've only got the leftover seniors from last year. We can guarantee you a job for 3 years, but if you can't build this program in three years, you're going to have to find something else, or we'll find you somewhere else in the district to put you. We're a huge district. And, man, it wasn't 2 years. We had all the seats in that filled. And then a waiting list. And then that waiting list just kept growing to the point where the CEO of our district's like, we need to double this. So hired a new welding instructor last year. Was his first year there. His name's Mark Willis. He's an awesome guy. He used to work for Miscellaneous and some other places. He's been around Fab Tech and competitions, places that you would be frequent to. You probably ran into him in the past. He used to handle Mr. Flotman with Fronius. He was his handler for a while and knows Sean really well. Great guy, by the way. If you guys don't know Sean Flotman, Dabs Wellington, super cool dude. But anyway, he worked out really well. He's doing great things with the program. He just kind of gravitated towards it and kind of, was a relief for me because trying to teach somebody else how to teach high school is a tough thing.
Yeah.
And he just gravitated towards it. So that's left me open to pursue this. Again, my Speaking of Skilled Trades podcast, it's allowed me to put more time into it, more of my social media, and content creation. So, man, all things are good right now. I got so much going on that I didn't intend to have. I never thought about starting a podcast until, I'll be honest with you, man. I don't know how you got started, but I got started by just creating content, and I started reading so many different comments going down through there. It's like, I don't know if they were telling me I'm ugly, but they were like, man, you got a good voice for a podcast. Kevin, to this day, I think it was just a really nice way of saying, dude, you're ugly. Get off of my screen and let's get on the radio. So that's when I started the podcast. So, man, it's been going great.
From another podcaster, I appreciate the good audio that you have because it sounds really great.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Likewise, it's much different than interviewing somebody on their phone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. My vision with this is just, I just spoke for the first time publicly in front of 600 educators in Columbus, Ohio, at Career and Technical Education, All Ohio ACTE conference last week. And I spoke for an hour, basically told the story that I just told you, but in a much more detailed platform. And man, that was a trip. I don't know. Have you ever spoken in front of somebody like that?
Not 600 people, no. Smaller groups, like 30, 40, 50 people.
Yeah.
Like, I used to facilitate, a men's group at our church. So that's anywhere from 20 to 30 to 40 people. And then let me think, have I spoken? I don't think I've really spoken in front of a really large group. I don't think I have.
Are you nervous when you do?
Fabricator Olympics.
Yeah. Okay.
I like hosting that. Yeah, I got no problem with it. I actually kind of enjoy it, actually.
I do too. But I'm going to tell you something. When you get up on a stage, 600 people looks way different than 600 people just standing in a room and you're sitting in the same room with them. You're looking around, you're like, oh, that's 600 people. All right, I got this.
Yeah.
When you step on a stage and 1,200 eyeballs are staring at you. I hope I got that math right because this is recorded. I am a welder.
Calculator out. Hold on, we are welders.
Disclaimer: we are welders. It doesn't matter. But when you have all those eyes on you for an hour,
yeah,
man, that was a trip, and it went off without a hitch. I think there's going to be more speaking opportunities that come out of that, and that's kind of where professionally I'm headed. I just want to advocate for career technical education and provide that segue from high school to career, to skilled trades, man. That's what I want to do. Not only do I want to educate through my podcast on, having people like you and, people like Dabs, Sarah Stork on there and just telling their story, because a lot of what we have in the podcast world is technical. And like Jason does an awesome job. I think so much of Jason Becker. He has been a huge, I mean, I'm not even going to sit here and just say everything that he's done to help me, but man, from literally he's everything that I'm doing as a podcaster right now has come from him. Yeah. He's told me everything. He's taught me everything. This dude is not a gatekeeper. Just an awesome guy with Art Junkies podcast. If you haven't checked that out, please do. but Jason has been responsible for teaching me a lot of stuff. And it's just something I think through getting to hear people's raw story, and not because, Jason does, you do Welding Business Owners Podcast, which you're talking to welding business owners about what they do in business. Jason does a lot of AWS content with some really technical stuff that Jason can understand and I can't. He's transcended into that world of higher education, in my opinion, with welding. Something that I've never been super interested in getting that deep into it. It's like, it's a means of fastening some stuff together for me to build big things,
Yep.
But that there's an art to it, and I respect that side of it. I just haven't dove into the education side of that much.
Yep.
And he does an awesome job in that world. And I'm thinking, my goal is to get young people involved in skilled trades. And I think a lot of what they see, it's become a world where when you see guys like Dabbs Wellington, with all these followers, and he's doing his thing, it's like, well, man, he's famous. I can't do that, And then when you get to hear Dabbs on my podcast, and it's like, this is a real dude.
Yeah.
He started out the same way I did. He's been through some of the same struggles I have, and then kids are like, that world just opens up for them.
Yeah.
And when they get somebody on, when I get somebody on from, that's a union electrical contractor of some sort, whether it's, and I'm not super high end on the unions either. I don't know much about them because I was always an open shop guy. But the more I'm learning, yeah, man, if you want to be an electrician, you probably should get into a union. You got a pension, you got, you're making great money, healthcare. There's a lot of great benefits, but I'm not well versed in that area. So when I get people on that are, that message gets to the youth,
Yep.
And they say, okay, well, I want to be an electrical contractor, but maybe my uncle was and didn't make much money. This guy's sitting here saying, if I go this route. So basically all I want to do is provide real education to people that are floundering and wondering, is this something that I should get involved in? Should I get into skilled trades? If you want to be an iron worker, listen to some of the guys I got on my podcast and see if those are the kind of dudes you want to work around for, 40 plus hours a week. And if you are, hats off to you, man. You deserve that. You deserve to be there.
You know what you're getting into.
That's exactly right. Listen to some of the pipe welders that have been on my podcast. And, like, I don't know if you've talked to Rob Weber. He owns Trade Fuel Coffee. Not only does he make some really, really good coffee, he's a pipe welder out of 597 out of Chicago. And, he's telling these stories about how he got into welding. And then, so I'm hitting a whole nother market there, because it's not just the kids that I'm used to getting into welding that are the farm kids that have always grown up around it. And then, into my program, this dude's in Chicago, and he didn't have access to the schooling that I did in high school. So now you're learning how people carve their way outside of education and make their own way into, how do you get into a union? How do you get into 597? If, if your high school instructor didn't do it, or if your trade school instructor, you went to Hobart or American Welding Academy. I'm going to piss everybody off if I just keep naming names. But if you went to one of these schools and they didn't put you in contact, how do you do that?
Yeah.
And so, and a lot of young kids, man, you go in there on that, like with his interview, and you look at the comments on it, and there's kids in there saying, hey, how do I get that weld test? And you've got guys out of 597 telling them exactly how to do it. And then this kid comes back, 5 weeks later and is like, just took the test. I think I did great, waiting for the phone call. Man, that is phenomenal. When you see something like that transpire, and I'm hands off of it, I just was simply the conduit. That was all. I just provided a platform for the message to get across. And this kid's now into 597 because of it. And it's just, to me, I don't know, man, it's surreal. It's just really, it's a really awesome opportunity. I love the space that I'm in with the podcast because I am a talker. I love to hear people's story, man. I love, we could talk about business all day long, but who are you?
Yeah.
And what have you been through? And how can you relate to the young people that are listening to this show? And how can you inspire them? How natural can you be to get on their level? They might have seen, they might have just got done watching 10 videos of you. They might have you on loop playing because, you're teaching them something cool. Because that's the reality of it, man. I've walked down the street in Chicago, which my first time at FabTech, and somebody randomly yells my name out of a window, which was insane for me. It's like, how? I don't understand that. And then you go to those people and it's way higher than that. So now you've got almost a superstar status attached to these people, and it almost feels out of touch for the average person. And so hearing them be that average person, I think is a really, it's a really good, I mean, it's just a great space for me to be in.
Yeah.
For sure.
Do you think social media has helped or hurt the perception of the skilled trades? Because I feel like you could look at it one way where it's, you know, it looks cool and it's sexy and everybody wants to get into it, but like, it's not as easy as everybody thinks. So what's your take on that?
So I think social media has been huge, and again, promoting the trades, kind of bearing that old stigma of blue collar, you know, hard work, no money. We're kind of showing the world that that's not the way this is.
Yeah.
We can make as much money as we want.
It's turning it around on everybody else, really.
Exactly. And all those people that told you that your only way of being successful was through college are being proved wrong on a daily basis by the kid with a, you know, a rig rolling 300,000 a year.
Yeah.
That's lawyer money.
Yeah.
And those guys went to school for 8 years. You know, this kid went to a trade school for 11 months.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's done a phenomenal job at changing or at marketing and drawing people to the trades. Where it's hurt is giving them unrealistic expectations of the trades.
Yeah.
You know, and making it look like every job you're going to have is buying you a new rig, buying you a new truck. You know, that you're just going to go ahead and wipe your tears with $100 bills on, you know, every time you get sad because you're a pipe welder. It's brought a lot of, and it's also brought, I'll tell you, I mean, you know, some of the people that are, you've got to watch, because a lot of people are very heavy social media and very, very light on the actual can follow through with the work. I mean, they make some good shots. I see guys welding from 20 feet away and overhead. Well, that's awesome that you can video your, you know, your slag dropping. I want to see that weld. Chip that sucker and let's see it.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
yeah.
Let's see what you've actually done there. But there's
Are you
a
hitting
lot
hours on that job, you know?
Yep, exactly. And there's a lot of people out there that are just making videos look good. Yeah. And, you know, you got the guys that are actually out there doing the work. I think that is the biggest downfall of social media, is bringing unrealistic expectations to the trades. And I think along with that, it brings an attitude with the younger people getting in trades. Like they think they're inherently, because they're in, you know, because they're a pipe welder, they're inherently entitled to X amount of dollars a year and nice house and everything else.
Yeah.
You know, they need to understand there's a lot of work that those guys have done to get where they're at.
Yeah.
That didn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
Even these young guys that are killing it on social media. Look, those aren't your average young dudes. It's just that simple. Those aren't they're average youngsters. So you either need to live up to that or surpass it to earn that. Mm-hmm. But don't just think because you've watched some videos online that you're a top hand now. That's not the way this works. And I think that's where, you know, social media has kind of put a lot of this. Yeah. If you wear a pearl snap, which I love Johnny Herrera with Pearl Snap Pimps, man, he's one of my dudes. I love that guy. And you know, I just say pearl snap just to say it. But if you wear a pearl snap, some goofy glasses, and say TIG rig a bunch of times, you're automatically supposed to make $250,000 a year. You know what I mean? And that's what people think. And that's just not the reality. I mean, you got these guys fighting for more money in West Texas oil fields. You know, the reality is that, you know, we're not living the luxurious life that a lot of auto cut from, you know, cap cut makes it look. That's not the way it is. We're still normal people. You know, there's people that are successful in this industry, and there's people that do really well, and people that make a lot of money. Those people work really, really, really hard for it, and their goal every single day is to be better than the person beside them. Yeah. And if you're not one of those, this is just like every job.
Absolutely. As a business owner a few times over, have you dabbled with AI at all?
I literally can't find a way to incorporate it into what I do, or I would. I mean, as far as just keeping me on task, man, little basic things like that, you know?
Yeah.
Do you use it?
Oh, I definitely use AI. I think it's one of the, for me, I think I like to tinker with things. And I think this is a new thing that has come out, and it's changed the game in a lot of ways. It makes my workflows a little bit easier. Uh, I like to bounce idea, especially for the Fabricator Olympics and the Welding Business Summit. I
Mhm.
need ideas. I need to cultivate things. I need to do research.
Okay.
And, I've got pin projects and things like that. And just helps me take what's in my mind. And, I'm not the most eloquent speaker, and I don't, I'm not good at social media and drafting up catchy campaigns and stuff like that. But you know what? It is. And it's really good at doing research on things. And I've played around a lot with making my own apps for things that make my workflow go a little bit better with things. And
Okay. So are
you
you
know,
using stuff like Codex with that, or what?
so I use Claude Code for
Okay.
for making things, and there's things that in the welding business space that I think could be better.
Mhm.
Especially like one app I made, it was for I am terrible. I'm just terrible at social media. I really am. I'm busy doing the work, and I always forget to take pictures or videos or things like that. And I'm getting better at it.
Yeah.
Like I've been for the last year and a half. I've been videoing all of my actual interesting jobs,
Mhm.
and I'm just building up a library of that stuff. Um, but I made an app that will, if I upload a picture to a Google Drive file, it will take it and it will analyze it, and it will come up, it'll see what's on the picture, and it'll come up with uh, some sort of caption for it. And then it'll email me a draft of the captions, and I'll choose one of them. It'll say approved, and then it'll actually go ahead and use, I think it's Buffer, to post it on all the social medias.
Okay.
Um, and so it works. It's cool. It's got a nice interface. But then I realize it's just as much work as it is just to freaking do
Yeah.
it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that hasn't gone anywhere. I've got some pretty good ideas on because I am in the welding business space. Ways to come up with products that would make my job with JMW easier. And I'm working with the guy Burton. He's well, probably 6 steps ahead of me on this. And we're kind of spitballing, working back together, back and forth about coming up with, a welding business specific project management tool, because I use JobTread now, and it's good, but I only use 25% of what it actually can do.
Okay.
And it's pretty pricey, man. It's $200 a month plus $20 a user. And I'm somewhere about $300 a month for this. And I'm like, this is just too much for me. But
What
I'm
does it
set
do
up.
for you?
So I do my estimating, I do my
Okay.
invoicing through there. It has a library of all the material that I have and that I commonly use. Um, and I
Does
so
it put a price point on that material for you?
I manually put that in.
Is there anything AI can do to gauge? Can see this is what I don't understand. Can AI say if I give an AI program 5 steel distributors, and I say monitor on a 72-hour schedule the price of steel
Mhm.
and report to me every amount of whatever that may be on the fluctuating prices. Can AI is AI capable of doing things like that?
Uh, at this moment, no. So
Okay.
yes and no. So it's not. You can set it up on your. So one thing I'm actually doing with our program is that every 30 days or 15 days, or however you set it up, it will it'll take your library of materials, and in your library it'll say where you get those materials from, and you'll have your sales rep from that company in your settings, and it'll take your material and it'll export it as a Excel spreadsheet, and
Okay.
it'll automatically email that guy and say, "Hey, reprice this." And then when he replies back to you, so it'll be a specific email that's set up that when he replies back to you with another Excel spreadsheet, it'll say, "Okay, I'm going to take that Excel spreadsheet, decipher what it says. I'm going to re-upload it, and I'm going to change all the pricing from what it was to what he just gave me." So
Gotcha.
I want it to do that every 30 days automatically. Now, will your sales guy reprice it every 30 days? Maybe. The place I buy from, they have a crew of people who that's just what they do. They just sit there
Yeah.
and they do pricing. So,
Yeah.
yes, they will do that. Will they send it back to you in an Excel spreadsheet? Maybe, because the place that I buy most of my stuff from, I'm having trouble with them. Like, they'll send me quotes from their system, but they won't change it. Like, they won't update my Excel spreadsheet because it's not easy for them. So
Yeah.
it's
Allegheny Steel is terrible at that.
yeah. So it's
You ever
early
use them?
stages of things like that. But as more companies adopt it, and just give it a year or two, they're going to set up something so that they can get rid of some of their people and take some of the responsibility off. Where when I send them a Excel spreadsheet, they're going to have their AI say, "Okay, this is JMW Fabrication. This is their rate. We're going to the AI is going to see, okay, this is the code number or the item number that we give to them. We're going to cross-reference it with our item number for the new pricing. It's going to automatically update and send it back to them." So
Nice.
it's
Yeah.
early stages of that because everybody doesn't play well together right now.
Yeah.
So it's some of it is very like, "Hey, I'm doing what I can, but I need something in return," and a lot of people just aren't on that level yet. So I am playing around with it a lot. Honestly, I just really like to tinker. I like to build things, and
Yeah.
this is I don't know code. I don't know how to do an app. I'm very I've only been diving into this for about 6 or 8 months now, and it's really just probably 8 months. And it's all new to me. So I'm a welder who's trying to learn an entirely different skill set.
Yeah.
And to be quite honest with you, I don't even want to know how to code. I just want to know how to prompt so that the codes work. I talk
Yeah.
to a lot of people. They're like, "No, you probably need to learn how to code in order to make this happen." And I'm like, dang, I don't want to learn how to code. I just want it to
Maybe
happen
basic
and do it.
functions. Maybe
Yeah,
basic
but
functions.
from what I understand, there's a lot of stuff on the back end that
Yeah.
like if you need to understand to make things work, and it's
Right.
just it's a
Right.
whole new skill set for me.
Yeah.
And I actually really enjoy it. I love it, and I'm excited for where AI is going to take us. A lot of guys are pretty pessimistic and pretty they don't see the vision. They don't see the
Yeah.
vision. So by the time that people hear this, are you familiar with Adam over at Hero Machine Company or Maker Table?
No.
No. So super smart dude, super smart. And by the time that people hear this, they can go back and listen to my interview with him. So he started in his garage, probably 12, 14 years ago. He built his own CNC plasma table. He started selling stuff on Etsy. He's one of the biggest metal sign sellers on Etsy, and he still runs that business. They do ornamental ironwork down in Tennessee, and his newest venture is importing in CNC, laser welders and CNC laser tube processors and flat sheet lasers and all sorts of machinery from China.
Okay.
He started Hero Machine Company. That's who he's doing it through. And he just got back from China at one of their big fairs in, I don't know, Beijing, China or something. And it was just incredible to understand where, like, what you think that AI can do and what machinery can do automatically. We're not seeing it here, but it's happening over in China now.
Okay.
Like, as an example, he was saying, if you go on YouTube and you search up Hero Machine Company, you can watch his newest video where he went there and they've got just a beam that they put together, like a fabrication fixture, we'll call it.
Okay.
And they put the material in, and this thing comes over and it scans. Like, so it scans what's there, and there's a couple ways that it'll know what's there. You can either upload a drawing that says, hey, this is what it should look like. Scan this and make sure it actually looks like that. If it's wrong, tell me where it's wrong. If it's out of square, if it's out of plumb, if it's out of measurement, it'll scan it and say, hey, you're a little bit out compared to this drawing. Or you can actually have it scan it. And because they're feeding more information into it all the time and it's digesting, like, oh, on these beams, we put a weld here, here, and here. I think the AI thinks we should put a 1/4-inch fillet weld here, here, and here. And then it proposes that to you and says,
Yeah.
hey, should we go about doing that? And then it just takes it and it does it. Like,
That's awesome.
Crazy. It is
That is
crazy,
super cool.
awesome, and a little bit scary. And a lot of people are like, oh, it's never going to take my job. Bro, just wait a couple years. I think it's coming for your job,
Yeah. The thing is too, I guess here's the one. It's only as good as the information you feed it. So
absolutely.
I couldn't tell you how many times in erecting that I've looked at a print and I'm like, nah, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And they're like, why? Well, here's because, and you run into code issues here or this and that. As long as the information that it's pulling from is 100% accurate, let's say that the drawing is created through AI and it's, been evaluated through accuracy, then the rest of it can flow very well. But if you're just pulling off of this one detail, I couldn't tell you how many detailers have screwed up thousands of jobs that I've done.
Oh, yeah.
So it's only as good as that detailer or something like that. But I totally understand where you're coming from. I know that humanoid bots and stuff like that are going to be advantageous in the future. I'm not sure what their capabilities are going to be of evaluating certain scenarios in real time. Like I had a guy on he was what is it? Is it the IBEW? And he was an equipment operator. And he was basically saying, okay, yeah, you could send humanoid bots to our location, but are they going to be able to feel in that piece of equipment, sense the ground giveaway and different parameters that they're going to have to work in? And I'm like, not yet, but man, that equipment will probably be able to sense that in the future, same way you are as an operator.
Hydraulic pressure and things like that. Yeah,
exactly.
All feeding into one computer.
And here's one thing that I want you to think of, man. I'm going to throw this back to you. And my problem with AI, I'm super open to the possibilities of what it can do. As far as MySpace is concerned, and what it can do for me, I'll take that back. I did use it for my speech. I put everything on paper. I wrote my entire speech myself, but I was having problems pacing. And I put it, my AI use goes as far as Gemini, right? That is the only thing I even know how to do. And I used it to say, hey, take this speech and pace it out for me to make it a 60-minute speech. So it gave me benchmarks to go off of. So when I was when I was looking back over it, I was hitting those benchmarks and I was coming out at like 58 minutes and 60 minutes dead on. So it was super helpful in that situation. I'm trying to think of ways beyond, like in everyday business, how it would have helped me when I was in business. And if it were able to, if I were able to throw or even talk into it and say, hey, I have 330 linear feet of 2-line rail, 6-inch cores, a basic flat install. And it's already programmed at $23, $25 a linear foot. And it's able to spit out a price immediately. Awesome. If it's able to look at that job and tell me what equipment I need for that job, even better, right? If it's able to take that job, tell me what equipment I need and line that up through my salesman. And I mean, I can see to where it'll remove a lot of the overhead in a business like that, which gives you more time. But again, what are you going to do with more time if you don't have the labor to facilitate that work? And then how will you be able to offset that labor in the future is another question. Are you going to have a crew full of humanoid robots? I don't know. In the future, maybe. I don't know how that looks. But I can tell you one of the things that scares me about AI. And I'm going to use this for an instance. Let's say a basic machine shop who is, they've got some good CNC machines, heavy tool changers. They got a lot of tool changers. They can process a lot. Okay. But they're also competing in an environment that's tough to compete in manufacturing right now. So the excess cash flow isn't readily available for businesses' growth. And AI, in my opinion, is going to be a game of who has the most money to be able to make it fit their line of business. Those people will prevail.
Mm-hmm.
What's stopping Coca-Cola from getting into fabrication and just gobbling up the share of it? If they own, if they've got the money to be able to advance AI into any process, any manufacturing process, what's stopping large corporations from just, and we're already seeing it in the service industry, in HVAC, these large conglomerates are buying up small companies like crazy because they're removing so much overhead from their business that it frees up so much cash flow. When you're laying off 3,500 people because you've just reduced your overhead by 30% overnight.
Yep.
Now you have all the time in the world and money to facilitate those advancements in AI that'll allow you to take over in the industry. Mm-hmm. And that is scary to me because then it becomes the people with the most money rule the show. And that is literally, if I'm a small shop down the road, and let's just say I'm selling widgets for $2.50 a piece. And there's another shop down the road that's selling widgets for $2.50 a piece. Same thing pretty much with rates in industry, right? You're not able to carry a shop rate that's, way over somebody else's unless you have the reputation for that. I mean, then that can get it, but you can't carry that. You can't disproportionately charge compared to your competitors. You can't do that right now. So you're stuck at kind of the same rate. We're both selling widgets for $2.50 a piece.
Yep.
Now, company A has 10 million laying around that they can retrofit their facility with robots that are controlled by AI that can go from station to station and eliminate, jobs on the floor. And then they've implemented AI in the office, so they don't need this accounting department anymore. You don't need this estimation department anymore. You don't need a whole staff of engineers anymore snapping lines in AutoCAD. That's not our reality anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So now that company has the cash flow to implement this AI to reduce their overhead literally overnight. Now they're able to sell widgets for $1.75. There is no way for you to compete.
Mm-hmm.
None.
Nope.
You've maxed out your labor. You're already having a hard time finding that. You're competing with foreign companies in pricing. So you're having to compete with foreign labor, which is tanking your manufacturing. You don't have any meat on the bone.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got large companies with large cash flow implementing AI into small companies and gobbling market share out of the little people's hands. And that scares the hell out of me about AI.
It does. And, there's I think there's a lot of ways to go from there. I think we're already there. I mean, in the age of CNC machining, widget pieces have just gotten cheaper.
Yeah.
You used to have the guys who were straight up craftsmen. They go out there, manual lathe, go out there and start making pieces and cranking them out. Well, CNC put them out. They either adapted to learn how to use CNC, or they just found another spot to fill in that company.
Yeah.
I think you're already seeing that takeover of big companies even private equity companies coming in, buying out companies that run really efficiently. They're owned by private equity. They're a finance company that deals in X. They're a finance
Yeah.
company that deals in making bottles. They're a finance company that deals in making ADA railings and handicap ramps. They're a finance company that deals like we make. There's a company that we make stuff for. They openly say we are a finance company that deals in stairs and railings. Like that's just the product that they have. So we're already seeing that now, and the world is already going that way. The bell curve of the haves and have-nots is getting steeper and steeper every year. So I don't think there's ever that's the beauty and the downfall of capitalism is because is that the bell curve is getting steeper and steeper of the people who have and the people who don't have, and we're already down that like there's if we don't adopt AI, it's not going to stop that. Because there's going to be companies and people who do.
So here's the thing I think is different in your comparison to CNC machinery. CNC was the information about it was extremely clear and understandable to everybody in industry when it came out, right? Everybody understood it because it's basically you're just programming everything that a manual machinist would do. Now, not every manual machinist knew how to program, but once they learned the language they did, then they're just adjusting speeds and feeds. So that was less of a curve than something that can literally change your company overnight with one purchase. And also with CNC equipment, if you were a successful just say manual shop and you had one or two guys in there and you were doing really well and you had a backlog, you could go to Haas and say, hey, I'm looking at this machine. What can you do to get me in that machine, to get that machine in my shop?
Yeah.
And they would work with you. But who do you do that with in AI? Like, who is that? Like, who can I partner with? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We know that this is going to change the game for everybody. The same way that we did CNC machining, we knew that it was going to change the game. We also knew who to talk to with that. It's like, how can you hook me up with the latest and greatest machine? What can it do for me? How much more work can I take if I've got so many different tool changers than I did before? What does that mean for my company? But who do you reach out and talk to about that with AI?
You don't. So
yeah, that's
AI,
the scary part.
So think of this as a graph. You've got the cost, and then you've also got the so you've got the cost to implement it, and you've got the cost of the actual problem. And the problems that cost the most money to fix are going to be the ones most advantageous to implement AI on. So labor is absolutely one of them. Can you take AI and implement it? Is the cross between the learning curve and the price low enough that it's worth tackling to implement AI on? Widget pieces, like pieces that are just put into a jig and just you weld around it. Easy to do and not that expensive. Those are the first things that are going to be knocked out by AI and are being knocked out AI. I think with the CNC analogy, the path forward was clear. I think the path forward with AI, it's subjective with every task that you're looking for it to do.
Yeah, that makes sense.
How hard is it? Like, how expensive and hard is it to get an AI robot that will take a core drill out of the truck, walk over to the right spot on that ramp, put it there, and core drill a hole properly, safely, and 2 dimensions there? That's a big problem. That's a big, expensive problem. So that probably isn't going to go away anytime soon. I think it's one of those things. It's baby steps. As you knock out like the problems of, back to the widget thing. It's easy and it's relatively cheap to figure out a solution to that problem with AI. So what does that look like for each niche in the entire blue collar trade industry? You know, having a humanoid robot climb a ladder and run conduit for electricity, that's a hard problem. That's going
Yeah.
to be much cheaper to solve with a human being until you've gotten to the point where you solve so many problems here. That's just the next step. That's just and so that gap, bridging that gap from taking that humanoid robot. Well, guess what? Maybe in 8 or 10 years, it knows how to climb a ladder safe and efficiently, and it actually sets the ladder up itself. Check that box. It knows how to read barcodes, and it knows, this machine robot put down the conduit over here. It knows that it can go over there, navigate the terrain, because you've already checked off that navigate terrain back here, lower down on the steps. And then as you climb those steps of knocking out those problems, there's just a matter of time where it gets to, oh, well, having it run conduit for us and gluing it together is really not that big a deal because of all the steps that we've already solved down here. So what does that look like for people? I don't know.
What
I've
does it
heard
look
a
like
lot
for
of
business owners, though? That's the thing. What does it look like for business owners? That's what I'm intrigued by, because, as you're saying that, and from the manual labor standpoint that you just brought into that perspective, to me, that gave me some peace of mind, Kevin, because it sounded like there's almost a curve there that it's going to have to follow. And then if you're privy to that information and you're keeping up with those trends, it's almost like hearing about those CNCs, 40 years ago. And you're able to keep up with it. What are they doing now? But the scary thing to me is the people that are looking at the problems that we're having in industry and saying, yeah, it takes a hell of a lot of time. And I don't know where core drilling is at. I mean, are they at $50 a hole yet for a 3-inch, 6-inch hole, 3-inch diameter, 6-inch depth? I don't know what they were back in my day. These guys were charging $25 a hole. It's an expensive problem. And honestly, I would rather have my guys setting material and, finishing up projects than spending time on a core drill. But my issue is, it's the person who recognizes that problem and is in the AI loop to help build that technology that's going to have access to it first. And what kind of market share are they going to be able to gobble up before anybody else gets that opportunity? That's what's scary to me, because there seems to be, unlike anybody in any other time in the past. And again, this is just my perception of things. I'm nowhere near being an expert in any of this, but it seems to me that there is so much gatekeeping with this AI, with the development of it. And of course, inherently it has to be, because it's a global game changer. But to me, it just seems like a shrouded mystery that if I'm not involved in ground zero to develop these things, to fix my problems, then I'm stuck paying for that solution when somebody's already profiting off of their solution. And it's tough to gain that market share back after you. It's kind of like, if you put it into perspective this way. So my father-in-law is the president CEO of a plastic injection molding company. And recently I took a visit with my class, and I'm super proud of him, man. I can't wait to get him on my podcast. You're talking about a guy who started working at a place at 17 years old in the tool room with no experience, no skill, learned how to be a tool maker, worked his way up, worked his way through college at like 30 some years old, and became the president CEO of this business. I mean, he's just the overall American success story, and he's an awesome dude, and I'm super proud of him. But I'm going to use this as an example. You walk into his place and there are presses from the 70s, and they're chunking away. They're doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. They're making knobs, and they're competing in the knob market. And then I take a trip over to another place local to me with my students, and their goal is to be a lights out facility in 5 years. There's robots going from every station, pulling boxes from those stations, delivering them to another station automatically. programs are being sent from the engineers in an office, and they automatically trigger and produce on their presses. Brand new presses. They communicate with every piece of technology in the facility. How much would it cost to retrofit my father-in-law's shop to be able to
So
go
much.
to compete
Oh
with
my
AI?
gosh. Yeah.
Dude, it's unreal. He can
Yep.
compete now, but once it's done.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the demise of a lot of people. And it's not necessarily if they weren't able to keep up with the curve. Do they have access to it? That's my thing. It's like, maybe, if you could say, okay, well, CNCs have been out for 30 years and you just now bought one. Yeah, that's the problem. That's why you're folding up your shop,
Yeah.
You could have been keeping widgets producing while you're doing stuff on the side this whole time, but no, you're 30 years behind.
Mm-hmm.
But that information was there. It was accessible. It was your decision, like if you wanted to get in that game or not.
Yep.
But I don't feel like it's that way with AI. I don't feel like it's that way. I feel like it's, well, who do you go to? If you're a small business owner and you need to retrofit all of your presses in your business, who do you go to retrofit all of your presses with new technology that'll talk with AI in the future when nobody really even knows what that looks like?
Yeah.
So the people that are in the front run, that are in the driver's seat, and again, you're inspiring ingenuity. You're creating a whole new industry where people can find ways to make money simply retrofitting companies to AI. I mean, I see the industries unfolding in my head, but I also see the blue collar dudes that are running shops out of their garage. I see them really taking a dive, and that hurts. I hate to see.
Yeah. No, I think our generation. So I think it's hard to say because AI is moving so fast.
Yeah.
So fast. Like, just think about what AI was 2 years ago. Those like disgusting looking, like, picture things that you're just like, everybody's got 6 fingers. You know what I mean?
Now I really believe Theo Vaughn is the preacher in a church.
You know what? You can't tell the difference anymore. I
couldn't tell the
dude.
I was like, hey, honey, did you know Theo Vaughn could sing? Dude, it's so, and here's what it takes. It takes my son to look over my shoulder when I'm saying that, going, Dad,
that's AI.
That's AI, dude.
Yeah.
Hey, but you're right. 2 years ago, you could distinguish that pretty easily. Like that. That's obviously an AI image.
What's it going to look like in 2 years? And like, it's hard for me to say. It's like nobody knows the future, obviously, but it's to your point. I think our generation is going to be the generation where it's AI and implementing AI with whatever that looks like. Whether there's not going to be a ton of people out there figuring out the hard problems and being able to implement them into their shop without having somebody to hold their hand with. So so obviously the people who figure out how to, take that cobot and scan it and have it come up and weld itself. Yes, those are going to be the people who you're going to have to go to implement that.
Yeah.
I think what AI is going to do for our generation is it's going to take the 1, 2, 3 man shops and make them super efficient. If you adapt it, you're going to be able to put out so much more. Yes, it's going to be expensive. You know what I mean? You might have to have $100,000 robot that comes and it's got a scanner and you can need training, but it's got a full bed with jigs on it that you can put things in, and you can make railing and like kind of like with JMW. The reason why we chose stairs and railings is because it's hyper local. Like somebody you in Ohio can't compete with me making rails over here in the Lehigh Valley. It's just not going to work. So if you're able to figure out how to take AI and put it into a quote unquote hyper local business, you are going to be you're the next future of like doing really, really well in business. So instead of paying 6 guys, you've got 2 guys and doing the work of 6 to 8 to 10 guys. What does that look like?
If you can make it through
that
first introductory stage, though. Yeah, it's if you can make it through that first stage.
Correct.
Because if you've got somebody that's already implemented it, if I cut 30% of my overhead right now, I can compete with you in your backyard.
Yeah.
In fact, I can beat you in your backyard.
And there's going to be companies who take that package and go to you and say, hey, I can save you 30% and you can just make this and ship it wherever you want in the country. And they're going to take that and they're going to package it and they're going to sell it to every other weld shop who can afford to have it. And then you're going to almost have regional territories that they sell you like so if you're familiar with trucks, are you familiar with the Ultralox rail system where they like sell, I think Trucks owns it. I seen that at a Fab Tech. Basically, it's a 12-foot high press that you buy these pre-made pickets and you put it in there and it presses together this aluminum railing and you buy the press from them for $100,000. You buy a container full of either black, bronze, or white pickets and top rails and cap rails and posts and everything like that. And then they sell you a territory that you can sell, or you have a territory that you can make it. You can sell it in any market, but you can only do it in like put your machine in Eastern Pennsylvania. So like maybe that's something that AI has. And Trump comes in and says, hey, we've got these laser welders. We'll sell you a laser welder on a robot arm with a 20-foot bed with a press brake and a tube bender and roller all in one. You sign here, it's $700,000, or with Trump is probably like $5 million. But you'll be able to put out with 5 people the amount of work that 50 people, and you can compete with those 50-person shops who aren't doing this yet. You know what I mean? Like, that's my vision of the future. Not that I love it. I don't love it, but looking through history of how things have happened and how things are going now, I can kind of see that being the future of like small weld shops, or you just have a bunch of Miller-Matics or Lincolns in your shop and you buy the old machinery and because everybody's going off and buying this new stuff, that machinery's pennies on the dollar and you can still make a good living doing railing, and all you have to do is charge what they charge. There's going to be a whole genre of people who do that too.
But you still have a ceiling over your head from somebody else. Yep. It would be like you working for one single fabricator and only one single fabricator only. I mean, do you do that now?
No.
That's scary.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to put all my eggs in one basket.
No.
And especially, if and you're
when they
doing
jack
that
the price up.
Well, yeah, you can do that, but again, if you're not in control of that, they control your price.
Yep.
So if that market exists that you're talking about, then it's like, hey, whoa, there's an economic recession. Well, everybody's going to have to take a 17% cut across the board on all their pricing. There's not a thing you can say about it.
Yep.
Because in the end, you probably still owe a little bit of money on the piece of equipment and, whatever, and you're still obligated to these same terms. It's just a scary, man, anytime that we try to restrict, because if we look back into history and we say, okay, we look at the Andrew Carnegies, we look at people like Rockefeller. Rockefellers need to get oil across the country led to pipelines, created a whole new industry. But Rockefeller didn't control the pipeline. I mean, yes, did he have heavy influence in it with dollars? Yes, absolutely. But that led to a multi-billion-dollar industry where a lot of people had space to compete. That's where money started and said, I need to create these solutions for these problems. Here's a lot of money that I have, figure it out and make it happen, right? All those guys did that.
Yeah.
But the only one that really did, and honestly, Carnegie got into I think, if I'm not mistaken, like setting electric poles or something, had a business that was supposed to help develop the electrical grid and ended up selling the business before he set the first pole in the ground. He just said it. He built the business and sold the business off the contracts he was able to get in his hand. Yeah. And honestly, if we look at business from that standpoint, I think there's a lot of opportunity that way in like retrofitting facilities to run on robotics and things like that. And for fabricators, dude, if you can go in and have a vision, if a company says I need to get from point A to point B with this robot and it needs to have this type of cabinetry on it, as a fabricator, that's a wide open market to be able to go in and retrofit things to solve problems if you're familiar with robotics and things like that. So the industries that are created as offspring of stuff like this, I don't feel like it's the same. I don't feel like it's the same because somebody eventually, ultimately is going to hold the power to all of those industries. So it's not like Rockefeller saying, damn it, I need to get Standard Oil from East Coast to West Coast, build me a pipeline, and here's a ton of money to do it.
Yeah.
And then everybody comes together, all these different companies that feel like they have the opportunity to be able to build that pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
That's how the industry was built.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be that same rollout with AI. I think it's going to be more of the money controlling the technology and then allowing people to compete in certain markets.
No, I agree. Like I'm worried about, you know, the renting of everything.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
like now, like, who is that dude who said you'll own nothing and be happy? Like, think about this. You don't own your music now. You got Spotify. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you don't pay your Spotify, I mean, obviously, I think you can have it free, like, but you don't own your music like you used to with CDs and DVDs. You don't own your TV stuff. Fusion 360, Fusion, like, how many years ago they went to a subscription model and that's all you could have. And if you don't pay your subscription model for Fusion 360, you don't have Fusion 360 anymore. You know what I mean? Or Autodesk products.
Right.
How about all the, what's to say that I actually don't know, like, about Trump for Amado. Like, do they have, like, I don't know if they have proprietary software that you have to pay a subscription for. But like, what's to say that you spend $1 million on a press brake and a laser, and then if you don't pay your $20,000 a year software bill, then it doesn't turn on. Like, unfortunately, that is the reality of the way that the world is going. And I, to your point of the narrowing down and the big companies are starting to own everything, man, I don't see it in the small fabrication of that we do in our lifetime, but I can see it. Look at all these private money hedge funds going in buying single family housing. That's why it's so freaking expensive, because they're allowed to do that.
Exactly. And that's what worries me about businesses like yours. And that's what scares me, because there are companies, Kevin, that compete with you. I mean, how much has multifamily railing picked up in your business over the past 10 years?
In my business, probably none.
Okay. So, well, in commercial railing as a broad scope, huge. Multifamily railing is a huge industry right now. Where I've had people try to get me back into business just to do multifamily. Those guys are able to compete anywhere. You take Synergy out of DC, man, they have systems that snap together, and you can't compete in multifamily. And unless you have the same technology, unless you're, another guy that had to do the exact same thing, a guy named, I forget his first name, Hanson. He had Hanson Architectural in Oregon for a long time. He had his own extruders, so he was able to extrude his own aluminum. That was his competitive edge. So if you're not one of those, I just feel like I don't know. I just feel like it's going to be, if you have the technology, I can compete with anybody in anybody's backyard, and it doesn't take long. If I hit the Cincinnati area, if I just marketed Southern Ohio, and if I were able to cut somebody's prices, if I were able to cut the railing and miscellaneous steel industry's price by 30% tomorrow in Southern Ohio, I give a 6-month timeline to where most, maybe 90% fabricators in our area would be shot. They would be down with no hope of opening back up.
Yep.
None. So that's what we got to look at. And we got to say, I don't know that there's any way to stop it, but when you got people saying that, you're not going to, like Elon Musk going on podcast saying that money's not going to be needed in 10 years.
Universal basic high income.
So what the hell are we doing breathing all these fumes for, man? The joke's on us, Kevin.
Yeah. No, it's funny. Like, I don't, for a long time, I've heard about the universal basic income, and, I'm like, no, that's stupid. Real against it, real against it. And I'm still not for it. But seeing, just because I've played so much with this AI stuff, and I have the vision there, like I have the vision of a business builder and I can see the technology, how it's going. It's hard to envision, and because it's moving so fast,
Yeah.
that I think we're going to see so much change in the next 10 years of what business looks like, that it's going to be, if you showed an iPhone to somebody from the 20s, they would think it's sorcery and witchcraft.
Mhm.
And their mind could not even comprehend that something like that would happen. And I think, but that was 100 years ago. I
Yeah.
think it's going to happen to us in 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to look back and say, oh my gosh, remember when we talked about this? Or remember when we had a bandsaw that was manual?
Yeah.
Then now for $10,000, for $10,000 bandsaw, I can have a $10,000 robot that communicates with my Fusion 3D software, that it just picks the material off the rack and puts it in. Now, maybe that's not exactly what's going to happen, but it's not that far off. And it's kind of scary for what that means for, like, my kids and your kids growing up.
Yeah.
What kind of working environment are they going to be in? And
If they're in a working environment at all.
Yeah. If they're
That's
working,
the thing. So, like, if you're getting a basic level income, and with Elon's newest podcast, he's basically saying money's obsolete. What do you need money for? You need it for goods and services. And if those goods and services if they're available at 1 million times the rate that they are now, you don't need money.
Mhm.
And then if you dive deeper into the fabric of humanity, you need to feel value.
Yeah.
People work their entire lives to hone crafts because they crave value.
Mhm.
And not only does it help you in life, it helps you achieve the things that you want to create that value, but it's everything that you are. I identify as a welder. It's been me my entire life, man. And you ask anybody in my area, that's who I am.
Yeah.
What happens to that in 10 years? Who are you? You know what I mean? I don't know. That to me is the most dangerous part of it. When you look past economics, you look past business, you look past monopoly control over, production over occupation, period, end of story. It doesn't matter which way you want to go, whether it's stocking shelves or building 10 floors of stairs. At one point, if it carries on long enough, it has the opportunity to eliminate anything like that, and possibly, replace manual labor from humans with all electronic labor. And then at that point, man, what makes you who you are? Jesus was a carpenter. And God wouldn't have put that in the Bible, man. He wouldn't have told us that Christ was a carpenter if it wasn't important. Yeah. And I'm not saying carpenters are Christ-like. That's not the comparison I'm making, man. I don't value carpenters the same way I do Jesus. But I'm saying it was important enough to say, not only is he Christ, but he's a carpenter. And that's the way Christians view their Savior. He was a carpenter.
Yeah.
And it's like, from there, man, how do you put value on yourself? And then how do you, those things that that we've preached to our kids for so long, that we've taken ourselves, of hard work and determination and making yourself better, what's the point?
Yeah.
Why? If everybody's the same and everybody's entitled to the same things, why be better? Why be a better person? You know what I mean? Because being a better person is subjective as well.
Yeah.
And then also in the future, if you want to look at it that way, depending on how you are as a person, if you got that CNC machine and you go online and you run your mouth about the government, hey, that CNC machine's locked down, or your car, you can't go, your spending's cut off if you say the wrong thing,
or you can't take their orders anymore.
Yes, sir. So it's, you look at it and you say, from a business owner standpoint, it's scary. There's things that are going on, like Local 18 Operators Union. They have told me that they're taking every step they can to make sure that as new technology rolls out with AI, autonomous equipment, things like that, that their labor has to be the people operating that equipment. Well, that's great, but think about how many things aren't that way. Look at the teachers union. All they care about is going on strike. And for the next, for the political activism that but nobody's talking about how do you protect a teacher's job? How do you protect a teacher from just becoming a facilitator of education? Right now, they're educators. In 2 years, who has the authority over that content? It's going to be AI, because people ought to inherently think that AI is smarter than any teacher, which it will be. So AI has the authority over that education, not the teacher anymore. The teacher has simply become a conduit. That's it. And which they always have, but they always had to invest that personal learning first. But now they're just a facilitator of that education. And what does that mean? So it might mean that, in the next 5 years, you only have to go to school for 6 to 8 weeks to get a certificate of educational facility. You could become a facilitator of education in 6 weeks.
Yeah.
But that might only pay you $30,000 a year, or it might pay you X above your your universal income. Right. So we're minimizing the value of people. And that scares me.
Well, I think that's going to be almost like the currency and the cutting edge in the future, when you've got things that are just doing everything for you, and it's so cheap. Like, people are going to value the craftsmanship. Like there's always going to be a certain amount of people who, even though I can get it done cheaper because it was robotically welded and everything like that, I want hands who built that railing for me and those stairs. And it's going to become even more of I guess you would call it a luxury in the future, when everything does become like that. And same way with the teacher. Kids don't learn from a video, or just from sitting in front of a video screen. They need to have the dynamics of a teacher, of somebody live and in person. So I don't think that's ever actually going to go away. It's actually the having your course curriculum and everything already outlined might just help the teachers become more efficient. And unfortunately, it also might also tell them what to teach too, which is
that's the scary part.
It's a whole that's a whole nother set of issues that we could go down. But it's like, I don't know. I think it's going to be absolutely crazy when we look back in 10 or 20 years and see the progress that has, if you would even want to call it progress, what it looks like now to the future.
I think it has an opportunity to do exactly what you kind of laid out, and that's bring people back to the old way of doing things. And that becomes the appeal. That becomes a new market. And I can see that actually, if I think about, let's put it in perspective of photography, right? I have a phone that's able to really do about anything I want it to, taking a picture. But when I'm setting up my podcast studio, I don't know a thing about lighting, saturation, nothing. And this thing's not, I can learn it, but where people have been put out of business as photographers, there's always going to be that market of people who enjoy the nostalgia behind it and want to learn shutter speed. What does that mean? And how do I adjust it manually on a camera? Saturation. How do I adjust that? Lighting. How do I, what is the best lighting for? And so things like that. Yeah. It's kind of the same way if we look at it now, if there's people that have popped up forges all over the place, and come to my forge and I'll show you how to forge a knife.
Yeah.
We got classes every Thursday. Is it practical? No. Are we out there forging, handles and stuff for doors anymore? Some people do, and they get paid high dollar to do it.
Yeah.
But also the market created around it, the nostalgia of it is wanting to get in there and learn the way things were done before. So I totally see your point, man. I just
Yeah.
hope we're able to find a balance to just still give people value, because even the way I'm looking at it now is the people that stay in the game and are leaders in the industries, they're going to be okay,
Mm-hmm.
and they're going to have value. But it's the people that that aren't equipped to do that, that still find that value, man, at going in and grinding those rails all day long, going back and hugging their wife, covered in grinding dust, and looking at their kid, telling them, that they're wanting them to do better than them when they grow up, and it's just going to take some of that away. I don't know, man. It's weird. But I will put it in perspective like this. I'm old enough to remember, and a lot of these listeners probably aren't, but I'm old enough to remember the first time my phone made this weird ass noise. And I'm 4 stories up at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and we're putting in some of this brick lintel around this building. And I hear my phone make this weird noise, and I look down, and there's this weird image on it. And I'm like, what the hell is this? And it was an envelope. And I looked at my guys and I'm like, what is this envelope on my phone? And they're like, I don't know, man. It looks like the same type of envelope that's on your laptop when you get email. I'm like, there's no way this is a damn email. That didn't just happen, So I clicked the button and it opened my email on my phone. And I'm like, guys, sure as shit, that is an email on my phone. And everybody's crowded around. They're like, oh my gosh, you really did get an email on your phone, didn't you? And I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't lie to you. It cost me like $6 to retrieve that email, because it was, you get charged by the minute to use the internet or sell you. So it cost like $7 to get it. It was like $6.99. Pissed me off. But I got that email, and instantaneously I thought, you know what? I was so excited about it. And then I got in my truck, and everybody had left. The rest of the crew pulled off. I just got done talking to the job superintendent, about finishing up the rest of the job. And I hopped in my truck, man, and I'm driving down the highway, and I just thought, out of nowhere, my life literally just changed right then and there. Because no longer do the end of my emails say, please give me 48 hours to respond, all this stuff, because we, at that time in industry, that was acceptable. We understood that you don't spend all your time at a laptop. That it takes you a little bit to return an email, but now people are going to expect me to respond instantaneously, because they know good and well I just got that email. You know what I mean? So it changed me in business literally overnight.
Yeah.
And so we're talking about that on a mass level.
I know.
There's a lot of adjustment to make, man. And how we're going to do it as a society, and whether we can do it harmoniously, that's going to be a trick, man. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
I
deep,
agree,
though.
man.
Yeah, it's deep. I don't know.
Well, dude, this has been a super interesting talk with you, man.
Right?
Like, I really appreciate you taking the time. You got
Absolutely.
anything else that you want to add to this?
No, I mean, in my own, just my own promotion, I just want to, I always want to make it sure that I take the opportunity to encourage young people.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in school, you're in high school, and you're in 10th grade, and you're looking at this saying, what am I going to learn in the next 2 years that's going to change my life forever? I don't know how much more algebra you can learn that'll change your life forever. I don't know how many times you need to read Catcher in the Rye, or anything else that's going to change your life, The Great Gatsby, that's going to change your life forever. Career and technical education has the opportunity to do that. It can change your life forever. It did for me. I was the kid that wasn't going to go to college, that didn't have, I wasn't studious. I needed an outlet to work with my hands, to retain information, to be good at something. Career and technical education gave me that. So if you're a high school student and you're listening to this podcast, you're interested in welding, you're interested in being a business owner in the welding industry at some point, please, consider the right training at the right time. Don't waste your time in high school. Get involved early. Take that step. I know it's a big change. It's a new school, new people, but I'm telling you, it's totally worth it. And the skilled trades guys, we're living in a time where, Kevin, we're literally leading the next generation of millionaires.
Yeah.
And I totally wholeheartedly feel that way. Whether we get to it by grit and determination like we did before, or we get to it through the use of technology and AI, one way or another, it's on for us. And we have to show the world that we're there to tackle it. And we need a lot of people. We need a lot of welders. We need 400,000 of them right now. So get involved. And if you don't know how, let me know. Get a hold of Kevin. It sounds like you've got some great foundation contacts. Let's get involved in skilled trades, give it an option. And you know what? Let's treat it with the same respect that we do the white collar trades that require degrees. It's our time. And I want wages adjusted accordingly. I want us fairly compensated for, breathing that smoke all day, every day, the stuff that we do, the stuff that we go through, and the stuff and the work that we put into separating ourselves from everybody else.
Yep.
We need fair compensation for that. So skilled trades advocate, man. I've got, you can find me at Wolfe _CTE. That's Wolfe with an E, WOLFE _CTE. That's on Instagram and TikTok. I think it's just Josh Wolfe on Facebook. And of course, the Speaking of Skilled Trades podcast on all those platforms. I'm not very good at keeping up with those on those platforms. But you can definitely find me there. Other than that, man, I have thoroughly enjoyed this time with you, Kevin, and I really appreciate you setting this up. And man, anytime you're looking for a guest to get some content out there, we could pick a topic and talk. Totally down for it. I really enjoyed myself today.
I think we got to do this again soon, man.
For sure. Yes. Let's do it.
Awesome, buddy. I appreciate your time, man.
Yeah. Enjoy the rest of your day, Kevin. Talk to you soon.
You too, buddy.
Later, Rob.
See ya.